Hello and welcome to Melee Stats Deep Dives. We're back after a long drought. Last time I talked to you all, we weren't even talking about Slippy. Slippy was just an apple in Fizzy's eye as far as rollback goes. And here we are, 10 months later nearly, and we're talking so much more. Not only do we know the greatness of rollback, but we have the future of Melee to talk about as well. And who better to have on than my wonderful cohort of Melee Stats, Ambi Sinister,
What's up?
and the wonderful, equally wonderful Dr. Z. You might know him from Melee It On Me, or the Genesis TO.
Hey, hey.
We have a lot to talk about today. It's crazy to think that there could be a lot to talk about when it comes to Melee in such a time, but the beauty of Melee is that there's always something going on. And last time you might have spoken to us from the Melee Stats Deep Dives, we were just finishing our March Madness bracket, one that probably was a little in the back of people's minds, not the first thing people thought about when they think about March 2020. Yet here, a year later, maybe we're able to be focused on a little more. So we're talking the best sets of all time. We took 64 of the best sets and 4 dumb jokes that immediately lost. And I think people made fun of us for choosing our own sets, and then all of them lost. But
I was crushed, dude. I really thought Fluff versus Prince of Boo at the very minimum would make it past. I feel like that set had a fighting chance. I actually lobbied for it to get like an actual seed.
I think you wanted it to be like a 4 seed.
Okay, well I might have been exaggerating a little bit, but I thought
just bumping up the average, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is like one of the best sets ever, and I was vetoed, and then it lost to I think S2J versus Zane at LCS, and I was like, dude, come on. But
well, yeah, we're right at the end. We are coming up on the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and then finally figuring out what the best set of all time is. And I heard that both of you were able to follow the bracket and really vote on your own. So far, what has surprised you from what we've seen? We've seen a few upsets, which we did not actually see last year in the greatest upsets bracket. That was actually something that we were missing, was bracket upsets. But this year, the bracket seems a little more volatile. What were you guys seeing that really caught your eye?
I think maybe one of the big surprises for me was the first round of Abate versus S2J being voted over Club Hungry Box from Genesis 5.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, and not just because obviously Genesis 5 was my tournament, but I mean, that was like, when was the last time like the non-god had won a tournament at that point? Especially a tournament that big. Like,
yeah.
This isn't now where Zane's taking things. This was during Hungry Box's long reign of terror, some would say, and I was really surprised that people went with that. People went with Abate and S2J, which banger of a set, but I feel like it's mostly just known for that ending more than anything else.
Yeah, it's a great moment. Can anyone tell us what happened before that? Like, I feel like there's a lot of really great Melee sets where it's a great ending or a great stock or something like that. But as far as this, I think it comes more down to like, what is the best set? What would you watch 5 games of or whatever instead of 30 seconds of? So Eric, what were you thinking about that?
Yeah, so like I just think it's very funny, right? Because I think that the idea of the best set is so nebulous compared to all the other brackets that we've run. Because we've run best moment, we've run best upset, and now we're running this. And I think that like all of these are sort of contained within people's idea of the best set. And like the one example that comes to mind for me is Axe versus Silent Wolf, which like it wraps all the way back around for me, right? Because it pisses me off that it's doing so well, because like I know that people don't even remember that it was a game 3 of the set, right? Like there's like, it's such Silent Wolf erasure. Like if I was Silent Wolf, it would make me so mad that people talk about it all the time. And then like you think about it and you're like, wait, it was a good set. Like it was great. It was like this closed game 3 set, and like game 3 X just like went crazy. But like people don't remember that it was like close leading up to it. They just remember like the big moment. So like it's like all of these things like come together when you assess whether something is like a good set or not a good set. And I do think that a lot of these, the ones that I've seen so far, have they've been a little bit carried by moments rather than by like the overall quality of the set. And
I think a really funny example is literally in the same round that we saw Abate S2J take it, was the next match was Armada Mewtwo King at Genesis 1. Like the moment where we knew that Armada really was hot shit. Like, of course, he had a bunch of stuff before there where we were like, okay, he's good, but can he beat Mewtwo King? And that lost to Hungrybox versus PPMD at the Big House 3, which I guarantee you the reason people know that set is not even a gameplay moment. It's Hungrybox putting in the earbuds and then drumming along to Yeezus.
Yeah.
That's not even a moment of the set.
Yeah. It's like literally a moment between the set. I was like, I was shocked that that lost. I was like, this is actually kind of crazy. But yeah, no, I'm interested in Sheridan, your perspective on that set, because you were there, right? You were the TO of that tournament.
Yeah. It's weird, like thinking back. No, wait, for Big House 3?
No, for Genesis 1.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You know, that particular set, I don't think I actually saw, because what was happening around that time was that there was a Brawl set that was claimed to be stalling, and somebody had a recording of it. So I had to get a bunch of people together to watch it and determine whether it was stalling or not. And like a fool, I decided to take on the responsibility of organizing that as a TO instead of just handing it off to a Brawl person. So I missed a whole bunch of the late bracket of Genesis 1 because of that. So I am very sorry to report that I have no memory of that set whatsoever.
That's awesome.
It's so funny.
Thinking about Genesis 1, like you mentioned moments and you mentioned gameplay, but there's like a third thing that's really important for a lot of people in determining what their favorite set is, and that's just like what it means for Melee, what it means for the people involved. Because, you know, also in that part of the bracket is Mango Armada Genesis 1, which when you think about it gameplay wise, you know, it's Puff versus Peach, which is usually not a very enjoyable matchup, but you know, this has got to be running for the greatest set of all time, just because of what it meant for Melee, what it meant for the trajectory of Mango and Armada separately, but also their rivalry.
For sure.
I do want to say, I want to interject briefly and just say that gameplay wise, so I see this brought up all the time about Mango Armada Genesis 1, about how it was a Peach Puff set, and like, dude, it's totally like, it's this Peach Puff set from 2009. Like, how exciting can it be? I'm like, man, are we watching the same set? Like, there's two roll rest reads and the double Stitch Face combo. I'm like, dude, like both of those would be like combo of the tournament in any tournament, like for the next 5 to 10 years. Like, it was like, this is so ridiculous.
And oh man, there one on Pokemon Stadium where Armada almost makes a 3-stock comeback. That one's crazy. There's even like one of those DBZ moments where like they both get hit to the opposite side of the screen. You're not sure if anyone's going to survive. They're like both at 120%, and then they have to come back together and finish out the set. And man, that was just an exciting ride of a game too.
Yeah, it was high octane.
So the funny thing is that by this point in bracket, you know, we talked about the upsets that happened earlier. Where we currently are, like at the end of the bracket, is really nebulous, like Ambi says, about what really makes which one better. Because we're talking about like coin flip scenarios where, dude, any of these sets could be called the best set in the world of Melee, I guess. And I wouldn't fight you. You know, if you said that PPMD Armada at Apex 2015, that's the best set, sure. You don't hear it from me, but that's also something that I didn't vote for in this round. So it all comes down to these, like, you know, what does matter? You know, when you say that, Sheridan, you're right. And the funny thing about the Genesis 1 set is that, like, it's got everything going for it in a way. It's got the gameplay. It's got the importance. Like, that might be one of Melee's best stories of all time. And what it doesn't have compared to like everything else here is it's a 2-set grand finals, and we only care about 1 set. Like everything else.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like every other, the Royal Flush or Big House 9, it's like
Apex
one
15 is
big
like that
moment.
too.
Oh yeah, where doesn't PP just like 3-0 him with Marth?
Yeah, it's definitely like a wash.
Yeah, that's kind of a reason why I didn't vote for Apex 2015 in the Elite 8. It's just like not every game was amazing, but for some reason I don't care about that with Genesis 1. Like, it's the stuff that's amazing is so good that I have chosen to forget that Armada went Fox versus Puff in 2009, Blue Fox, and got like what 3-stocked or something. He just got destroyed.
Or whatever it was.
Yeah. Only in a set that is as amazing as the original Genesis Grand Finals will I forget that ever happened.
Yeah. It's funny that I think that kind of all of these sets in our top 8 they all sort of have that like caveat to them that's like, oh well, like this is like a potential downside of it. Where like, Apex 15 and Genesis 1 had like the sort of lackluster second sets. Stuff like Royal Flush was like the stakes were not really that high at the particular tournament. Like all of them have like these little asterisks that you could argue or like make it more or less exciting. So I think like all the matchups from this point out I think are really, really interesting. So I'll be interested to see what people think.
Yeah, and it's cool to think that we're not untouchable as a community, right? I mean, even one of our number 1 seeds was one of the most recent in-person majors. Like you said, all of the things have something small going against it, which who knows, man? If we ran this in 2022, or if we ran this now and had lands the entire 2020, who knows what the number 1 seeds would look like? Like, it's so amazing to look at all these great sets and still
see one from like a year-ish ago.
Yeah. Just like even like the smallest things wrong with them and be like, well, who knows? Maybe we just have a perfect one at some point.
What's crazy is that 7 out of the 8 feature Armada in them.
Yeah, I saw this brought up where, I don't know, Armada is just such a champion, dude. Is whether or not he wins, all the sets involving him seem pretty important. So
he's the GOAT. I mean, like, man, I wish I have this number somewhere. He's in by far the most number of sets in this, and second is Mango, obviously. But Mango's ratio of how many sets he's in versus how many sets he's won is like off the charts. It's like a 10-4 or something like that. And Armada has a lot of sets where he wins, but most sets where he loses. And it's just like, it means so much to beat Armada in a way where it might not mean the same to beat Hungrybox or Mango at certain points or Mewtwo And I think like that's a testament to him. I don't know if he sees that we love all the sets where he loses, but like, don't take it the wrong way, Adam.
I think he does talk about this all the time. Right? Like, I remember he got really mad at Edwin when he was...
Well, that's understandable.
Well, I mean, everyone gets mad at Edwin, but he did get mad during that, like, 100 best sets ever, where, like, all the best ones were where Armada lost, but he was like, it's okay, because the best set ever was the one that I played and won.
Oh, God, I hope then he wins this. I don't want to hear it.
I have a feeling he will not, because the odds are sort of stacked against him, but we will see.
But, it's kind of like how some of the best Super Bowls ever are the ones where the Patriots lost.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, Super Bowl 52, the Patriots lost to, who was it? Oh, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, my God. Absolute banger of the Super Bowl.
I think I've still heard Edwin complain about that after the fact. Like, after all was said and done and we watched the Super Bowl, he still complained about it. He's like, I just want Brady to have 6 rings. That's all. Then you can win the next one. God. Champagne problems if there ever were one.
For real.
But speaking of the Super Bowl and ultimate winners and all that, what do you guys think will win this bracket? This is a prediction, so not like an opinion. What is your call on what's going to end up with the most votes at the end of this?
I think it's going to be Mango Armada Genesis 1. I think that's just I don't know. Maybe it's just like because this is it's sort of like a prediction, but it's sort of just like low key my own opinion. But I think like nothing comes close to Mega Armada Genesis One. I think it's the most important set ever played. I think it was one of the most exciting to ever watch. It was the one with like the most outrageous storyline of all of the sets ever played in the history of the game. And it's just been crushing everyone in the voting up until this point. I think the closest I've seen so far, like I don't know. I think a lot of people are meme voting for a bait S2J because of the invisible ceiling. But
Right.
like even that, even like the meme power of a bait S2J was not enough to get like even what 20% against Armada, Mega Armada Genesis One. I just think it's like the clear number one. So
Yeah, and I cannot disagree with you at all there. When I look at what has the chance of beating it, I would say maybe PP Armada Apex 2015, just because that's been featured in a lot of just Melee history recently,
Mm-hmm.
and just was, it brought to close like a really strange episode in Melee's history, and just kind of allowed everybody to feel really good about what could otherwise have been just a terrible weekend. And a lot of like how we kind of feel about sets is just how they made us feel at the time when we were watching them. So I think a lot of the people that were around at that time and that watched that set, they could put that above Mega Armada Genesis 1. I think maybe a distant third to me would be HBox Armada at EVO 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was it was on the biggest stage for Melee, just in terms of exposure to the broader, I guess, esports audience. And also, like, probably the best set, like, that a Puff has ever won. I mean, well, okay.
Well, yeah.
but like a puff, you know what I'm saying? Like not.
That esports has ever been a part of. I can't imagine anybody like that was a 10-game Puff Fox set, and I was not bored a single second of that. And I think like that was a set that HBox absolutely gained a lot of fans over. Like,
Mm-hmm.
despite what people may have thought of him or his gameplay at the time, like anybody that became an HBox fan because of that set, there's like no way you can blame him for that.
It all comes back to that, right? The H God, the clutch God. Like, obviously, he was good before that, and what made him like the number one player definitively came after that. But I think if you like want to draw all of it back, comes to Evo. I think both of you are right when you say Genesis 1. There's something really funny about that set. It's like when you talk about the best movie of all time, like the elephant in the room is like you have to talk about Citizen Kane. So either you're calling Citizen Kane the best, like everyone else does, or you are not calling it, but you're doing it intentionally. Like, you can't say anything without thinking of whatever that is. Or like Sgt. Pepper's for best album. And I think in the Melee world, that is Genesis 1. Like, if you say that a set's better than Mega Armada Genesis 1, then you're doing so as a statement. So it's going to be interesting to see how people do that. Because currently, how many people do you think have actually watched the 2009 set? Like, not a ton.
Right.
We have sets on here from 2016, 2015, 2019. And there's definitely been people in the scene to watch it live and just get a different feeling from it. So that's going to be the biggest question, is the history of Genesis and the history of Mega Armada, will that be enough to overtake like actually watching something on Twitch and feeling all those emotions in the moment? Maybe. I mean, like any other 2009 set, maybe not, but Mega Armada, I don't know how you could not love that set.
I really
Or I guess maybe you don't know
like,
Armada.
I don't know, dude. Even like the Zoomers, I feel like if you haven't watched that set, you're just depriving yourself, right?
There's been people who voted for this probably who did not watch any Armada sets live. Isn't that?
That is weird. I saw a Reddit comment the other
Ugh.
day. It was linked in our Discord, and it was like, "How did IRL tournaments work? Like, how did you know where to go to play your set? Like, I'm interested in going to one when I come back, but I don't know how they would work. I can't conceptualize it in my head." I'm like, oh no, dude. There's this whole contingent of people that like don't know what CRTs are probably that actually play the game.
Dude, it's that, and it's the comments where it's like, "Who's crushed? Was he that TL?" And it's just like, hits me so hard. But I have to understand this is good. This is a good thing. Like if we still have fans who like literally don't know what it's like to be at a tournament, then that's good. If people are like so entrenched in Melee where they want to get in a pandemic, dude, that's a plus.
Yeah.
So we all mentioned what we think the best set is. Why don't we go on to the next topic? So take out any.
I want to do one question to you guys, because this was something that I was thinking about while I was looking over the sets. Is do you have any that you feel were snubbed from the bracket entirely?
That's a good Eric question, because we've made each bracket in tandem as a group, and after going over the seeding like vigorously last year and then having one upset in the top 32, there was definitely more of a laissez-faire attitude to ordering. But yeah, I mean, I think I was the one who actually did the final ordering, so maybe I put in everything that I wanted. But Eric, was there anything specifically that you really wanted in other than Plupaboo?
Okay, well, Plupaboo did make it into the bracket. It just lost, and I can't really take ownership over that. Like that's just people didn't agree. That's fine. One thing that I do think wasn't on here, is Amsa versus Crush at Battle of BC3.
That made it as a 16 seed.
Was it Battle of BC3? What was the other one? The other
Battle of BC2, and then Big House.
Big House 6?
Big House 7.
The one that didn't make it on here.
Yes,
I forget which one it was.
Two Amsa Crush sets on here.
Yeah, I did have two of them. I think that at least in my view, the Amsa Crush rivalry was like all of their sets were so interesting. And like this is I guess like Fox player Ambi coming out a little bit, but I really thought that like their all of their sets were like really really fun to watch. I think that the game like they were all like game 5. I remember getting into an argument with Tafikins like the first time they ever played, where Tafikins was like, dude, there's no chance that Crush will come anywhere close to beating Amsa. There's no way. And I was like, no, dude. Crush is just gonna drill Amsa like 150 times and destroy him. And he gave me like 20-1 odds that Amsa would beat Crush. And I took it and I lost because he like lost like last hit game 5. I was so mad because I was like, Tafa, you know this was plus EV for me. You know it. You know that this is better than 20-1. I angrily gave him the money over Venmo. But yeah, I think that those sets were all really, really cool. So I had 2 of them in the nomination phase, and only one of them made it through. But the other one I thought was good. I thought that it could have gone through as well.
And yeah, Sheridan, I want to hear from you on this. Like, what are your thoughts on what might have been a good set that we maybe missed out on?
Well, as I was looking through the representation on this, I noticed that there's only one set with somebody from NorCal, and it's Ken and Isaiah at most. No Zoo, no Pew Pew, no Shroom, no SFAD, which is really too bad because I can think of at least one set from all of those players that could be on here. But I actually think maybe the one I would pick is I think SFAT versus Hungrybox at, was it Shine 2016 or 2017? I don't remember.
I think it was 2016 because that was the one where Mewtwo King won.
Yes, that's right. And then so SFAT beat, I think he 3-0'd Hungrybox and then just got destroyed by Mewtwo King.
Yeah.
After that. And that was a point where like I actually had never seen Hungrybox like be dominated so hard at that point, and it was something where I didn't understand uh, how Foxes would lose to Puff after like watching that set, and obviously that didn't come to be, but it was just one of those things where you having watched that set and trying to play out in your mind, okay, what does a Puff victory look like? Like nothing, like no images. I could not make that vision happen in my mind at that point. I think people obviously remember Pew Pew defeating Hungrybox at
Mm-hmm.
Payback 2015 a little more, just like more of a signature win for Kevin, and one of those places where like the pivot tipper thing became um, more well known because of that set. But just like the domination that Zach showed in the set at Shine, I think made it made it like more memorable for me. Um, but I think every good March Madness bracket, you got to have at least one joke entrant. And for me, that has to be Jay Kuhn versus the Great Leon at Pat's House One.
Oh, this is a classic.
I
With,
think our Leon YCZ was just talking about this recently too.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I watched it like the
That's
other day.
That's how much of a classic.
yeah. For those who don't know, this was a 2009 set over some Smashboards beef between two people who maybe would go 1-2 or 2-2 at every tournament, and I believe that more people watched this set at Pat's House than the actual grand finals. And it's on YouTube. Just search Jay Kuhn versus the Great Leon. I mean, it's one of the worst Marthados you've ever seen, but it's still inexplicably just alternately just hype, hilarious, and exciting at the same time. And we've tried to find ways to recapture that magic, but there's just no way. Like that's the only point in time where you could get that many people that excited over a Smashboards beef set.
It's funny. I've had this thought about. So I used to run my university Smash Club, right? So I definitely spent a lot of time watching like very horrible Marthados, right? And I think that people don't really appreciate how much fun it is to watch new players play the game, because I've talked about this with like my younger sibling about like low level play that's competitive, because like there's like a meta, right? Like there's like it's not like they're just like doing bad stuff because they don't know, like they're not trying to win or whatever. It's that they don't have the ability to do normal things, so they like replace it with other things. And like like one thing that comes to mind is like rolling, right? And about how like new players sort of use rolling the same way that like good players use a wave dash, right? Like this is something that you see like really frequently, where like a player will like come in with like a dash attack because they can't do aerials very well, and the player will like roll away and then dash attack them back, and it's like yes, he hit him. It was awesome. And I think that people need to appreciate like how like you see like the gears turning when you watch this sort of melee, right? And because of this, I've always thought that something like a Smash PogChamps would be super super funny, right? Where like you have like Mango coaching like, I don't know, like Soda Poppin, and trying to get him to F smash with Marth like over and over again because it's like the best thing in the game.
Yeah.
And like it would just be so funny. And I think that like sometimes that stuff gets lost just like only looking at the elite level. But
yeah. That reminds me of just really quickly. This was a long time ago. This was MLG's San Francisco 2005. But so Arash, who was the Puff player in Ken's crew at the time, he teamed with this Halo player named Walshy, who I don't think knew anything about Smash at the time, or not very much anyway. And so Arash teamed with him, and he told him to play Marth. And, basically the instruction that he gave him was point the yellow stick at the opposite team. And I think they got top 8 in teams at that tournament or something like that.
That's pretty close to what Marts do in teams normally. So I think that's
Yeah, it was good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, the history of Melee has a ton of sets where there's no reason people should care as much as they do. And I think, like, it scales, right? Like, MDZ Kage, that's a set that 2 good players are playing, but you shouldn't care about it. And then it gets even lower. It's like, why do people care about Chris Best versus Net 1234? And then you just go lower and lower and lower. And that's, like, the wonderful thing, is that literally any level of Melee can have sets that are maybe not worth watching, but are fun to watch. Like, the entertainment value, it just never ends. And
definitely agree.
Speaking of entertainment value, what about did we talk about our favorite sets of all time? We talked about what we think would win. Do we have any different answers from, like we a lot of it, we said Mango Armada Genesis is the one to beat. Would you guys say that's your favorite set of all time?
That's a hard
You know,
one.
It's a tough one. Look, I know. No easy questions here, no softballs.
If that's not my favorite, then my favorite would be Mango Leffen at Genesis 4. I mean, I was sitting in the front row watching it because I just, basically finished running the tournament. And to that point, every grand finals was Mango Armada at Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 2 games in a row where it looked like Mango was just going to get washed that game, and he somehow brings it back to win. And, we get the 4th Mango Armada grand finals in a row at Genesis. We don't need to go into what happened.
No, let's not go into grand finals there.
But, I mean, when Mango did that up B to avoid Leffen's up smash, like, that was just one of those just insane, mind-blowing moments of all the Melee that I've watched. And, like, rewatching the video of it with commentary, like, Bobby Scar's little scream there during that whole interaction, like, I know that's like the only possible response that you could have to watching that. And
we could run like another 500 Fox Falco sets and probably not get that moment again.
Right.
I mean, there probably have been 500 Fox Falco sets since that.
People spamming it. They're like, this is a good option, right? They just lose 499 of the times, except for Mango doing the one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it probably is just Genesis 1. And if I'm not allowed to say Prince Abu versus Plup at EVO 2017, then I don't know. Like all my favorite sets are like kind of silly, so like it feels kind of like disingenuous to answer with anything other than Mango Armada Genesis 1. But one that I do think is a very fun set that is sort of in the same vein of Plup Prince Abu is Scar versus Riceland at Genesis 1. You guys ever see that set? It was definitely one of the funniest sets, I think, of all time. Because, you guys know how much Scar hates Jigglypuff, right? It's like a, pathological hatred.
He's got very specific words to describe Jigglypuff.
And if you only want to watch one game of the set, watch game 2 of Scar versus Riceland. Because Riceland goes for, I think, 7 rests. And he misses 3 of them. And hits 4 of them to win. And you can just see like Scar like visibly get more frustrated the more times he gets rested. Like the 3rd time, like it whiffs or something, and then Scar tries to Falcon punch it and it misses, and it's like no.
Well, like, wasn't that set only possible because of multiple upsets that happened to get there? Like, X put himself like in the world of Melee by beating J-Man. And then did the next round, did he lose to Riceland?
He lost to Riceland. And then Riceland beat Bob Money.
Bob Money, yes.
And I think that was it.
It's so funny that, like, of all the available options for Scar to play, like, anyone else would pick Riceland.
Maybe not
But like,
Scar.
dude, Scar, I don't know about that.
Maybe Scar would have wanted to play J-Man.
That's so funny. Yeah, I definitely think you are very particular in the melee sets you like, but it's cool. You know, we like to talk about melee as a spectator sport, but for what it is, it's like it's both the NFL and also like Pee Wee football at the same exact time. It's like when you watch like kids play a game and none of them are good, and it just all sucks, but they all suck at the same level. You know, it's like what we mentioned before. So I think like, dude, go for it. Not saying that the like conventionally known sets of known to be the best is actually the best.
Well, you didn't
That's
ask me what the best set was. You asked me
oh,
what my
your
favorite set
favorite.
was.
Okay, I think if you ask people their favorite set, I think most would pick conventionally named best sets.
Mhm.
And I think it's super cool to just be like, no, it's this. And I was trying to think of, well, what in my heart of hearts is the one where I like the most? How many sets have I watched since I got into Melee in 2014? And unfortunately, I could not come up with anything. I don't know how. Like I couldn't come up with anything where I liked it more than anything else. But I'm gonna have to pick one that I don't think I would think of right away. But the way I thought about it at the time and the way that I felt was so strong. And it, dude, if I could feel this way about Melee right now, oh my god. I'm gonna pick Mango Zane Big House 9. Nothing made me feel like Melee could survive for as long as it did, and even longer, than watching that set.
I think it was by far the best set of the 2010s. That's my perspective on that set.
Damn.
I think yeah, I think like gameplay wise it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Just like every single game was down to the wire. It was like at a big event. It had
The
high
missing
stakes.
footage, like even the
Yeah.
dumb little like niche thing that you're just gonna stick in your mind is there.
Yeah, I think I remember watching that set and just thinking like this game's gonna live fucking forever. Like
Yeah.
this is like literally never going to end. If it's still this fun after like 20 years, there's no way it'll ever die.
I never felt more hope than watching Big House 9. What was that, 19-year-old game at that point or something? Like 18 years old?
18, yeah.
Yeah, that is nuts. Yeah, one of the closest to, you know, if we said there's not a perfect set yet, then that is one of the closest to perfect that I can think of.
It's a good pick.
What's up?
It's a good pick. Definitely.
It's a good pick. Yes.
Good pick.
So we saw Zane and Mango play obviously there, and we got a couple more competitive sets from them since, and probably one of the best sets that we saw from them was week 1 of SCL season 1. So this week we found out that Beyond the Summit announced SCL season 2, Summit Champions League.
Summit.
The S stands for Summit. It didn't stand for anything else ever. Do you guys like what's your thoughts on this? You know, what do we expect to see from SCL season 2? Like, what did you guys think of season 1, and what could be improved? What do we want to see again?
Well, you know, the thing that was most memorable to me about it is that I think it was one of the few things where, at least in the people that I was talking to, it was like a sustained point of attention for like the whole time it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And and it probably like has the most, I think maybe it had the most viewership of any event that happened or that has happened all throughout quarantine.
I think LACS or Summit might have been higher, but
I don't think it
for sure
counts. That's Ludwig's viewership. That's not Smasher's viewership.
all right.
But yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I really like the format too. I love the idea of just like promotion and relegation. Like I've always liked that aspect of how like club sports work in Europe and Asia, because like it always gives you a next level to strive for. Just really fun to follow too. And you know, a lot of great sets, a lot of great people that we got to see like featured more compared to normal. Like it was really great to see a lot of Aqua play that whole season too.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I did this in the last podcast episode we did, which was guesting on the mix-up. But I guess I'm just gonna like drop names a little bit. But Aiden did talk to me about the original SCL a little bit before they ran it, and I was just like, well, here's the thing, people don't really care about like Melee the same way they do when it's on land, when they do now on Slippy, and that doesn't mean it's bad. And I gave him like some nonsense advice. I gave him like a format that I was like, this would be fun. Didn't work at all, but he was able to put that in his brain and like,
identify it.
The input was something very dumb and the output was something that was super awesome. And one of the best things about SCL is that for a little bit, it is something that really, really matters, but also feels very of its era in a good way. It's a Slippy tournament, right? Like every other thing we've watched is a tournament that is trying to be a big tournament that it just happens to be on Slippy. But this is like a bona fide, only can do this online tournament. 4 weeks of the same players, or obviously people going in and out. That is not feasible on LAN. You're not going to have like people quit their jobs for a month so they can come and play and maybe just get eliminated because they lose to like Gatsu or something. So like the fact that BTS, jeez, I forgot what their acronym was. The fact that BTS could take a problem, which is the fact that we can't play Melee in person, and really spin it and make something great out of it, so amazing. Obviously, people were kind of like, well, what's the Division 1 playing for? And they had Summit, so they kind of shut us up really quickly. Now, I don't know if we're going to get another Summit out of this, but I'm really looking forward to like what they could do, because so far, everything that BTS has done, man, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how this track record's so good, but hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, I think that for me, Slippy Champions League was really interesting because it was like the first time that, so I'm sort of like a hater of the whole net play tournament era.
You're a hater of a lot of things.
I am a hater of a lot of things.
But that's why we love you.
But yeah, like I definitely, I think rollback is amazing, just like from like a player perspective. But I think that, up until Slippy Champions League, I was of like 100% of the opinion that it's like just inferior to LAN, like in every way that I could possibly imagine, right? Like you can't play people that are really far away the way that you can if you travel to a tournament. There's like connection issues. It's just like, if you had the choice between playing on LAN and playing online, you would clearly pick LAN, all else being equal. And like the key here is all else being equal. And I think that, like you said, all the tournaments up to that point were like, oh, it's just like a local, but it's just like you're doing it over Slippy.
Yeah, it's like, let's pretend like this is a major. Yes. Let's pretend like we're in a major bracket.
Yeah, and for me, like entering tournaments was the whole time, it was just like, oh, I really hope events come back so I can like have the real version of this. And like Slippy Champions League I thought was really special because it was the first time that I was like, man, I really hope this sticks around, like even after IRL events come back. Because like I think that like, just being able to highlight obscure players that don't have the funds to travel is really exciting. The format I think is really lends itself well to online. I think it uses it very effectively. And I think that it's like lower stakes in a way that's like really still engaging, right? Like it's not like, it's like this really important major set that like you prepared for. Like it's sort of like a really cool event that's on the off season, right? And people have expressed the desire for this sort of off season for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it feels like the solution in the future to like top players complaining that they don't want to go to events because it'll hurt their stream. They're like, oh yeah, I don't want to go to events because like I can't really engage with my audience when I'm at the event. There's like financially not that lucrative for me to be going to all these events. It's like, well, now we have online events, and if they're okay, like if they're fun to go to and like they're engaging to watch the way that SCL was, I could see like a future for it, and I thought that was really, really exciting. So definitely props to BTS for their work on that. Really excited to see more of that.
The cool thing is that the stakes kind of scale with like the hunger of the players. The people who have got a lot to prove are the ones who are fighting to get into the tournament, and you still see that like the Division 2 like really fighting hard to get into Division 1. And if you look back at it, a lot of Division 2 were the people who were like 10 locals a week type of people. And then you look at the top tier, it's people who didn't really enter as much as we might have seen from a lot of the other players. And I think that is a benefit, right? If we can see Captain Face Roll play or Plup or something like that, players who didn't really grind net play the way that other players of their general skill level did, and that's a plus. Like you said, you know, if they don't feel the stakes of it, but we as the audience can feel it, and other people in the same bracket can feel it, that's amazing. Sheridan, I've got a question for you. So, you as the TO of Genesis, of course, do not know of the existence of online melee. If Nintendo ever asks,
Correct.
but
What?
oh, don't worry about it. Something
Okay.
else. What do you think the history or the future of an event like this can be as we go into lands? You know, we're seeing more people get vaccinated, and it's a very real possibility that we could have LAN events come back. And I think, you know, will SCL, can that survive, or the idea of it, can that survive in the LAN world?
I feel like it has to. I think online tournaments are a permanent feature of the Smash landscape now. For better or for worse, I think it may make people, even when things are back to normal, less likely to want to go out to do Smash Fests, and that I think that would be kind of sad if that turned out to be the case, because I think that the social aspect of that is a huge reason why Smash has had the longevity that it has. So I hope that people will want to do Smash Fests to kind of supplement their Smash diet as opposed to just replacing it with net play. But I think the net play tournaments they're not going to go anywhere because just the sheer ability, the sheer accessibility of it is just a huge reason why it's taken off in the rollback era. Mm-hmm. And like it was mentioned already, there's people who have come into net play and have no idea how in-person tournaments work, and that's a sign that there's an influx of people to Melee, and if we want to keep them around, we're going to have to continue to do net play tournaments as well. Of course, we want to encourage those people as much as possible to come to in-person tournaments, but I don't see net play tournaments going anywhere. But I think it's going to be more complicated. Like, locals are still going to want to be able to sustain themselves. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that when there's a net play tournament that's like all of West Coast every weekend, people don't always choose that over going to their local that's 20 minutes away and has 30 of their friends at. Yeah, I really hope that the social element is able to survive.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be dependent on. So like my perspective on this is a little bit weird, just as like New England person, but I think that it depends a lot on accessibility to venues that are affordable. So I think in like college towns and more suburban / rural type areas, the local culture I really don't see going anywhere. But in places like New York City, I really think that it's rough. It's rough out there trying to get venue space to hold events in places like New York City. So I think that I don't expect the local culture to die, but it might regionally become weaker, which I think is an acceptable compromise as long as there's still, you'll meet them at like regionals and stuff. So I think that I have some good faith. I have some optimism that the local culture will remain.
Yeah. I think that the culture might stay intact, even if the locals themselves, unfortunately, might not. Like, we already know that there were multiple venues that unfortunately didn't, they weren't able to make it, which is an issue. But you mentioned the ability to, like, will people go to fests again? Dude, at this point, literally, I want to go to a Chili's or something. I want to be able to get out of my house and sit somewhere that is not my house with people who are not in my house. And I think that that is a benefit. And, like, hopefully the inertia of just wanting to see every single person you can will make people just want to continue this. I definitely think that there's no benefit to being in a pandemic for over a year, except maybe the fact that people, like, will do anything they can to get out of it. If this were something where Slippy popped up and immediately we had locals again, then it's a convenience thing. But at this point, I don't know, the connection to other people and just, like, having a real social life might be so strong where it's just like, I'll enter this net play thing tomorrow. I've got to see some people for the first time in 18 months.
Mm-hmm. I wonder also if the hardware difference will be a plus or minus for people. Some people may not have access to good net play setups, and for them, like, a CRT in person with other people is the best that they're going to get. On the other hand, if you have a really good net play setup, I think that's in some cases actually better than the CRT, is it not? Because faster melee plus, like, controller pull drift fix, there's, like, a couple things that are only possible in emulation. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's like it's a little different. It's like up and down, right? Like even with the best possible settings, sound is significantly delayed. So it's always going to be a trade-off, even just for that alone, right? Like stuff like reacting to Falcon Stomp in neutral, very very easy to do on LAN because the sound comes out frame 1. Really hard to do on netplay because the sound comes out like frame 5. So you have to react visually to the jump rather than to the sound, which is a little bit different. You can get it so that the speed of, like, everything happening is as faster than CRT. So, like, it's just like it's a big balancing act depending on what is good or bad for you. And, like, connection is, like, another big one, right? Like, if you have, like, really really good ping to someone, you could play on, like, 1 frame and it's, like, better than CRT. But there's also, like, the people, like Hax's Nightclub, for example, played with the Gecko code for reducing input lag and polling drift. Like, so there's no theoretical reason that this couldn't be moved to CRT. It's just that it wasn't the standard for tournaments, so people didn't use it. Hax's Nightclub did use that in order to abet and move to LCD screens, which was, like, very experimental and, like, had mixed results.
Yeah.
But all this stuff is very complicated and there's a big trade-off. This is my big point. So
no, this is, I mean, like, we are going to deal with this eventually, correct? Like, there are people who have probably played more Melee on their, I mean, definitely, probably. There are a lot of people who played more Melee on their computer than on a CRT. And this was always the case for a while. We'd always have, like, oh, Cyrox, like, he's a netplay kid. But the thing with this is, netplay was always like, here's what you do to get ready for LAN. This is where you can kind of, like, test yourself before you actually have to really show what you got. And now we're kind of running a situation where that might not be the case. Like, the weights of it might be a little off. So it'll be definitely interesting to see. And one thing I hope from these newer players is that we are able to kind of coexist, like you mentioned, Sheridan, with online tournaments and in-person tournaments. I think one of the coolest ways to do this is flying people out to tournaments based on online results. Like, if you had instead of winning a prize money or something, maybe or I guess you win the prize money, then use it for a flight. Or like an event sponsoring an online event as a way to win a flight out to something, that'd be amazing. Like, there's so many players who are popping off right now who we have not seen nationally. Ben was at a couple Smash and Splashes, but didn't go outside of there. We saw Aklo, like, only in New York and New Jersey. And those are players both who have really excelled online. And I guess this brings us to our next point. So we did see players like Aklo and Azul and Android Zero, who all if you were in the know, you knew of them as good players, but who all really were able to pop off. And the way that they really got their names out there was through SCL. None of them were invited. They all qualified through the weekly qualifiers. And in terms of Aklo and Azul, those are players who were in the tournament more than other top players. Like they played more sets than Groomed or something. What do you guys expect to see from season 2? Like, what names do you think might pop up in terms of people whose stock is going to really greatly rise?
I'm really interested. I mean, we already know Spark is really good, but I'm just really interested to see if he's going to kind of repeat his performance. We watched him like kind of gradually get through and get to the final division on the last one and making it to grand finals. I just like I don't really know about much about what he's done lately, and
he's in Pakistan.
Yeah, that's what he's been doing lately.
He's what?
He lives in Pakistan right now. I don't know how long term that was supposed to be. But the reason he hasn't entered stuff is because there's not much of an FLA scene in Pakistan.
I imagine so.
I mean, as far as I heard the story, I'm not connected with him at all. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. As far as I heard, the general story was that it was relatively short term, and it's just like play it by ear. If he's able to like come to tournaments, I think that's something where he would move back to America. So this is an interesting thing, right? We're getting to that point where people are getting vaccinated. We could very likely have tournaments, smaller tournaments maybe within 2021. Like, is this a moment where we might see him back? I don't know. It's also in a few weeks, so I think we would know by now. But if we were able to see Spark return for SCL,
that'd be really
that
exciting.
would be like the biggest news for me. I don't know. Maybe no one else would care, but
I think it'd be really cool. That would be exciting for me.
Although, like with Spark, there always comes the wave of unnecessary hate on Spark.
I don't understand it. I really don't get like why people have such an issue with Spark. I really don't think he's that different from the other Sheiks. Right?
It's funny because like he does cool things as Sheik, and he's a personable guy. He's not like an asshole.
It's so
like
random.
I'm not calling anyone out, but like we've definitely, with the increased presence of just having more time to go online, we've definitely known more about certain players, and I feel like it's hard to hide if you're a true asshole now. But that's like not Spark at all. So it's so funny that he's the one.
It's so odd.
Who just gets attacked.
I don't know. I feel like if you had like the Sheik blind test where you just had a bunch of different Sheiks and then you showed Spark and then you showed like Shroomed, like maybe Shroomed on a particularly good day where he actually does follow down throw follow-ups or whatever, but like I really don't think there's that different. I really think it's this weird like anti-cult of personality that Spark has.
He should move back from Pakistan and then just not enter as Spark. That's the key.
Yeah, he's just Smurfs. He'll be like Kirito or something.
Like, who is this guy? His Sheik's so sick. Yeah, I mean, he's not like J-Mook level or anything like that, but still, he's I don't get it. J-Mook, what about him? Do you think that he will be someone who could really like show his stuff at SCL season 2?
Yeah, so I have some interesting thoughts on J-Mook. Just as like, so I've pretty like my disclosure here is that I pretty much only watch J-Mook play Fox because I play Fox, so that's when I watch his sets. But something that stands out to me about J-Mook is that he's just like a very courageous player, right? I think that more than the other Sheiks, he stands out specifically just because he has a lot of guts. And the big thing for this is like, I feel like if you play pretty much any Sheik in the whole game, like once you get to 30 as Fox and you're like in knockdown range from moves, Sheik will just stop grabbing you. Sheik will like dash attack and like forward tilt and like try to forward air you and just spam knockdown moves because it's like a lot safer to do so. And then like you can get a knockdown, and you can get the same punish you get off of grab because you just tech chase to grab. So what a lot of the Foxes do is they just spam shield and full hop against Sheik, and it's like broken. Like once you get to 30, there's no need to defend yourself from grab because Sheiks are too afraid to do it most of the time because it's so vulnerable. And like this is like the big thing I noticed with Aklo's play specifically versus Sheik, where he like dash dance in place and then shield like a lot of the time. He doesn't really full hop. He pretty much only shields. And he's so good versus Sheik because like once he gets to 30, like no one will ever grab him, and he just does like shine at a shield and huge punches and stuff. And it was so funny watching Jmook play Aklo because Jmook would just grab him. He would be at like 50 and he would just like boost grab him, and then like he just had the courage to grab at 50%. And it's like that by itself was like so. It was so mind-boggling for me. I was like, oh wow, this guy's got some serious guts. So I really like Jmook's play. I think that he's a very interesting player, and I'm really excited to see him play more.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've seen like 2 or 3 events, and I think at every single one of them, he's beaten like top 20 players. I mean, it just comes down to, can he do that more? Can he enter? Like, it's not as much as a will he do well here as a will he enter, which I feel like the list goes on for people like that right now. Especially, this was always the case, right? This is like, dude, Gage is so good, but you'd only know if you're in San Diego. But now that could be everyone, and also it could be people who are literally top 100 and then just don't play net play. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard to pick the rising stars before they're actually rising. Otherwise, everyone would know they wouldn't be a rising star. But I think, someone who really didn't pop off in SCL Season 1, who I think could really do well in Season 2, is probably Ben, right? Like, of all the players who are at his level, everyone we've kind of known about, I don't think he's, like, a tier above or below, like, Bobby Big Balls or anything, but someone who we've known about forever. But yeah, I mean, even last year, Ben was not performing at this consistent level. So I would be shocked if he wasn't able to show his stuff at least one of the events.
One thing that is weird to me is that all of a sudden there's a bunch of like strong Yoshi players.
They're all hiding.
There are, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had one beat Hungry Box.
Zim.
Yeah. So, like...
Wait, Whiskers?
Whiskers.
We had 2 beat Hungry Box.
2, yeah. So, but, I mean, Puff Yoshi is just a bizarre matchup. So I'm just really interested to see if we're going to see some Yoshis go far.
That's a really interesting answer. I think there's a lot of really cool ones too. Like Mono is one that comes to mind. I played Mono once on Unranked, and he was just amazing. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's super weird. This is a problem, ? That we've never had before, where we can actually like have a gradient of Yoshis. Before it was like, here's a Yoshi, here's another one. One's top 10 and the other one's top 200. But now there's like an actual, obviously we can't talk about Yoshi without talking about Amsa. Obviously no one's on that level. But other than that, Whiskers and Bizim, I think both are super good. You mentioned Mono. I also think that someone like Gwex or Guex, as Saberson Title used to call him, like definitely puts up some good results whenever he plays. And I think this guy's done, but Grandma's Got Game.
He's
like,
so good.
He's
Grandma's Got
nasty.
Game is so good.
I also like really good Soul Calibur player. I think the guy got like top 8 in Soul Calibur 6 at
yeah, I think he's primarily a Soul Calibur
Was it
player.
Combo Breaker? Yeah, I don't even remember.
It was Combo Breaker because I remember Curly talking about it, so it feels like highly likely.
That sounds about right. That it's just so funny that
Grandma's Got Game beat like everyone at the Black Empowerment Invitational, right? Didn't he like?
Yeah, and I don't think that we saw him at any other events other than the Black Empowerment Invitational. Dude, that is nuts. It's so funny that like before it was like, who's the best North American Yoshi? To be like, I guess Peanut Phobia.
I miss Peanut Phobia. I wonder what he's up to. He's speedrunning Monkey Ball in the sky.
But yeah, it's a very funny. Who knows if it's a blessing or a curse just yet? But it's a very funny occurrence that we have so many Yoshi players now. We don't know what to do with them all.
I definitely think it's like the time lag of AMSA inspiring players to AMSA becoming,
Mm-hmm.
or to these players becoming actually good. Because I'm sure that no one wanted to play Yoshi at all before AMSA
What
came
about the
around.
Pikachu players then?
Well, I mean, Axe has been around like for a long time, right?
No,
Like,
but so he should be
Yeah,
inspiring
all
people.
Pikachus.
Where are his acolytes?
yeah, I guess that's a good point. But I don't know. It's been
I
like
don't know.
several
I think
years since AMSA became a top 10 player. Now it makes sense that people are like, I want to play Yoshi.
yeah, Yoshi's just fun to waveland around, so I get it. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there are a couple top contenders who we could see really do well. Who I don't even know if they were. I don't know if they played in the qualifiers, but I know that we didn't see them in season one. Kadoran comes to mind. What about LSD? And here's one that I'm high on this guy. I think it's like one of those things that Ambi mentioned earlier with like everyone likes the Axe Silent Wolf set, and then you're like, oh, everyone likes it. I'm not gonna like it, but then you go back around to liking it, but you think that the people who like it for the wrong reasons. I feel really high on Rocky right now, and obviously that's like yeah, Rocky was almost top 50 at a point. Like everyone likes Rocky. I think that the results that he's been putting up, other than losing to Koopa Troopa 895,
Cold Steel, the legend.
I mean, incredible player. 3-0 Pew Pew, so maybe I don't hold it against him. But the results that he's been putting up are really good. Was it 4 Loco Fight Night? Like we saw him top 8 or something. I think he beat LSD.
Did he beat LSD or did he beat LSD throwing? This is an important question.
I don't know.
It's very difficult to assess an LSD win these
It depends
days.
on if Rocky wanted to go to FOD.
I truly do not understand that guy.
Sheridan. I don't know if you know the lore, the LSD lore, but they hate FOD so much that at one point, if you counterpicked FOD, they would just give up the set. It was immediately yours, which is why we saw Unsure beat them.
Game, the set.
Yeah, just the set, just the game.
Okay.
But also, the funny thing is that like they also don't like Dreamland and Yoshi's. But at a certain point, you can't drop every single game that someone counterpicks you to,
Right.
or you just won't win any sets. So FOD was kind of the one that he was a martyr for.
Wow.
I don't know if he's still doing that
Very
again. He
weird
took a
hill
little
to
bit of
die
a
on. Well,
break.
he hasn't entered anything in a little bit, I think.
Yeah, he took a little bit of a break, and he's been coming back. He did pretty well at a few rollback rumbles. I think he got like second to Toussaint or Ben at like 2 back-to-back events, like a Maple Syrup or something like that. And then I think he got top 8 at a 4 Loco or one of the other events. So definitely someone to look out for, like the one who had a comically strong rise in November and December. It's like literally would lose to these players, and then the next time we played them would beat them. So maybe we're not seeing the same just like unstopped rise, but someone who I think could easily make it into SCL season 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised. I really want to see Lag, dude.
Lag. I am so excited for Lag.
I don't know if he'll enter, but if he does, I'll be really happy. That guy is
The
so
sickest thing about Lag is that we will get to see Lag at some version of the Smash World Tour. It might not be the Smash World Tour finals, but we will get to see him in the regional qualifiers, I bet. Sheridan, are you familiar with Lag?
I'm not.
All caps when you spell the name, by the way. This is Mexico's best Roy, which does not sound like a lot. But he is someone who's been consistently able to beat players who might not be top 100, but are like just outside of the top 100 territory. I'm sure he also has a top 100 win or two. But it's just like amazing to see him play Faust or something and end up winning. It's like, how does this happen? How's this unranked Roy supposed to beat this Puff?
He does it. It's a miracle.
Every single set he plays is a miracle.
It's crazy. He's a very impressive player. I just want to see more of him.
And
I
then
really don't understand the mind of a competitive Roy main. That's just
well,
like
especially because he'll go Marth sometimes too, and it's like, so I don't know what you need to do to get it. Like, how many boxes do you need to check off for him to play Marth? Because I remember he played Skittles, and Skittles went Fox, and he played Roy. And I think Skittles then switched to Sheik, and he played Roy, and then switched to Peach, and he was like, okay, all right,
now I'll
Marth
go
time.
Marth.
But then I think he lost and just was like, all right, back to Roy.
Yeah, I remember he beat YCZ with Marth after going down 0-2 to with Roy. So maybe Samus as well, but I feel like he plays Kata with Roy, so that's another weird one. I don't know. He's a very, very interesting player. I don't know what's going on.
Kata, another interesting one. Because Kata beat what's his face? Zane. Kata beat Zane's Roy. Like, low key, one of the weirdest rivalries that we had. Zane's Roy versus Puerto Rican Samus. I don't know. Sheridan, how do you expect, with the rise of net play and the rise of knowledge of these regions, how do you expect that to affect future majors? Future Genesees, future big houses. Like, do you think we will see a bigger push from Latin American, South American countries, or like countries like Australia, who we haven't really seen a ton of? Do you think we'll see a bigger push from them?
Well, that's hard to say. You have to figure out what was preventing them from coming to majors in the first place. It's a long way to travel for a lot of these people, and it's expensive. So if that's the reason, then maybe things won't be so different.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's that they simply previously did not have the ability to play people in quality matches like they do now, and it's like really enhance their integration into the scene and being able to play top players, then that's a big deal, because all of a sudden there's much more interest, and a tournament, a Genesis or a big house doesn't become a thing where they're just going to get destroyed and they've never had the opportunity to play good people or socialize with good people. But now with Slippy, they've had both of those opportunities more than before. So, maybe that will help bring them into live tournaments more. Really too early to say, but
yeah,
always got to be hopeful.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We saw a few players from mostly Central America, who, when they would come, would do pretty well. Obviously, Excel Zero is probably the biggest example of this, but also, like, on a smaller scale. Ambi, do you remember when Not Me came to, like, New England for whatever reason?
Oh, I do vaguely remember this.
I don't even know if he went to Shine. I have no idea. He was a Dominican Republic player, Falcon player, and he'd just be at like some random New Game Plus or whatever and do really well. And also we had Gliscor, who's another Dominican Republic player, Peach player, who I think was at some tri-state events, like a NEBS or something. So it's odd that we have seen these players, but just not. I don't even know if these two players have been to majors. Obviously, they could have gone to a major and get 129th or whatever. We never hear of them. But one of the cool things that we have is there is more of a personality for these regions. Like, if I can see Kata play all the time, maybe if he is on a compendium, maybe I'll want to see him. Like, we're seeing J-Cam in a pretty memey round robin with all the J Sheiks.
Yeah.
But like that's dude, that's getting your name out there.
I actually have the opposite perspective about a lot of this.
Really?
Yeah, no, well, like, so hear me out. It's not that kind of opposite. So I think that this big question is centered around whether or not these regions will pop up in major tournaments in the United States. But I actually think that what I'm low-key kind of expecting is for larger events to start popping up in places that they didn't exist before. I think that this is a particularly interesting point about the game being like so much more international compared to before. And one example that always comes to mind for me is the Chilean scene, which is like popping off right now. Like they're holding all these events, like all their events are really big, and like they have a bunch of really strong players. And you know, like maybe I don't know, maybe we see a South American major in 2022 or something. You know what I mean? Like I think that like the player base is growing, especially in places that are really far away from majors, right? Because of the fact that before, if you want to play really strong people, you need to have a scene in your area, or you need to travel to a major, which is very far and very expensive in order to get really strong practice. But now it's really easy to get that type of practice, especially if you're willing to play on 3-frame, which like a lot of the South and Central American players are willing to do. So the scenes are growing like exponentially down there and all over the world. So I actually think that we might need to be thinking about which American players would be willing to travel to South America and like, you know, how important is it going to be in the future after these LAN events for people to win these international events that potentially could pop up. I think that that's an interesting thing to turn over in your brain. Because I think
Get Ludwig on the line.
I think a lot of the most growth I think that I've seen, because you know the American players were playing before and after, right? Like it's not like the American player base has grown that much, I think, relative to before. But I think elsewhere we've seen a lot of growth, so I think that that's a potential thing to keep an eye on.
For sure. Yeah, I mean it's truly impossible to figure out just where Melee will go from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the cool things is that we have Smash World Tour to look forward to. Even if like every single one of those players busters out, that is still such an amazing leap for international Melee in a way that just we haven't ever seen before. So I am looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to hear Sheridan. I'm looking forward to hear you plug something that you want listeners to look into. We're nearing the end of the show, so I'm gonna turn it over to you.
What
I think he wants you to plug your social media and stuff.
Plug anything. What do you got?
Plug my existence. Okay, you can follow me at Sheridactyls on Twitter. I post more about roads and cities now than I do about Melee. So if you want to hear me complain about cars and parking lots, you can find one tweet a week from me on that, maybe. If you like Super Smash Bros. Melee in person, then you can do all that you can do to get this pandemic over with, and hopefully we can have a Genesis 2022. You know, we're don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we are preparing for the possibility of that. And I have no idea how big or small it's going to be. So we're still, I mean, I'm very hopeful though. I'm, very cynical about the government, but this is still, things are going better than I would have guessed at this point. So I think there's reason to be hopeful for in-person Melee soon.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. That's
definitely there's finally
yeah
a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is in Oakland, California, or possibly somewhere else. I'm not gonna.
The contract is up. The contract is void.
Back to Antioch.
Yeah,
Antioch. The Armada Inn.
I gotta go back. I mean, I gotta go there for the first time. Well, Sheridan, you are an amazing guest, as always, filled with history and knowledge. And I'm glad that you only got to the cities and roads at the very end. Because at any point, you could have burst.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
I'm going to become a train guy next. I think that's my next phase.
I have a train friend.
Nice.
I feel like we all have a train friend. I feel like that's just like the constant in every social group. That's definitely like a good thing to be, I think.
I had a train friend, and then I had someone who spent their weekends on trains because they had free travel. And I thought that was very weird. I think being a train guy where you go on trains when you need to and talk about trains, that is more normal than going on trains when you don't need to. So, to all the listeners, be the right train guy out there. And, of course, to all the listeners as well, if you want to hear more of us, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, if you want to see any videos, long form videos about Melee, that's the Melee Stats YouTube channel as well. Melee Stats Pod on Twitter. You can see our daily updates of what's happening in Melee. You can see when's Melee to see what's happening on the weekends. And if you ever want to read what Edwin Budding says, big F. Monday Morning Morths come out. I don't know when. Who knows when? If only it was in the title. So you can check that out. Ambisinister _
I make tweets. They're pretty good sometimes.
Very
They're kind
good
of angry
tweets.
a lot of the other times, but that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes you say stuff and then Leffen doesn't understand it. So you got to
I've
watch out.
survived so far. I have not been exploded on by Leffen.
Yeah, I think that anime tweet really gave you a lot of goodwill. But I appreciate both of you being on. Wonderful guests as well. And I hope to see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining. That was a great podcast.